Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's that Goblin Guy XY back with you again for another video where we are going to be looking at inflation and why normies just don't get it. So, this article was from ABC News. It was published today, 2/14/2023, and it says inflation falls in January, but egg prices up 70%. So I froze the embedded video on this at this point because I wanted to take a look at this. So this is what the inflation rate has been for the past 5 months. We had 7.41 in September, 6.77 October, 5.88 November, 5.7 December. So it was on a downward trend, and 6.5 in January, so back up again. But even that is terrible. Even though it's been on a downward trend, it's awful. So I'm going to read a little bit into this article, and then I'll explain to you how the government plays tricks with the numbers on normies to make them think that things are better than they actually are. So let's look at this. Consumer prices rose 6.4% last month compared to a year ago, continuing a months-long slowdown of price increases despite blockbuster job growth that revealed an economy running hotter than expected, government data on Tuesday showed. The data marked the 7th consecutive month of smaller price hikes. In December, year over year, inflation was 6.5%. Okay, this right here is where I'm going to get into. So they're talking December of last year, it was 6.5%. December this year was 5.7. So they're saying that that's lower, which it is, but only when you're comparing the actual overall rate. You still have 5% inflation. So let me break it down into easier numbers. So let's say you have $1, and at 10% inflation, so that goes up to $1.10. Okay, and then the following year you have inflation that's only 5%. So that $1.10, it goes up another 5%, and now it's at $1.16. Okay, so it's still going up. It's not decreasing. They're trying to make the point, or they'll say this month was 6.5. And this last month was 6.5, and this month is 6.4. So the government will say the inflation decreased by 0.1%. No, it didn't increase. It still went up 6.4%, and it's compounding as time goes on. It's getting worse, so it gets worse and worse. Anyway, the data marked the 7th consecutive month of smaller price hikes. So, okay, but it's still hovering at 5 to 7%, and now it looks like it's headed back up again. Inflation has fallen significantly from a summer peak, but it's more than triple the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. Okay, that's another thing that they play games with, is like even these numbers in this chart, these are not true because they don't figure inflation now the same as they did back in the 70s and 80s. If they did, these numbers would be closer to double what they're showing you, but they can't tell you that because it would throw people into full-blown panic. The price of some products have fallen. Television costs are 15% less than a year ago. Smartphones have dropped 24%. The price of used cars and trucks has fallen nearly 12%. Okay, the reason for that is people can't afford to buy food. Okay, I know, like my grocery bill, I compared just recently a grocery bill that cost me like $75 a year, a little bit over a year ago, is over $200 now. And take into consideration, I do eat a lot of eggs. I do a keto diet. I very low carb, so I have to eat a lot of meat and poultry products, and it is killing me financially. And my body can't handle large amounts of carbs, or I get sick. So it is what it is. But I mean, people can't afford to buy food, so of course they have to drop the price of discretionary spending goods because you can't. Your people are having a hard time living month to month. The Fed earlier this month imposed the latest in an aggressive string of borrowing cost increases as it tries to slash price hikes by slowing the economy and choking off demand. The approach, however, risks tipping the U.S. economy into a recession. So far, the economy has largely defied the anticipated slowdown. Okay, here's the problem. These little tiny rate hikes that they've been doing of 0.25 and 0.5%, it's not, it can't make an effect on inflation. So if inflation, let's use 10% because like those numbers are not quote unquote real that they're showing us. Even let's say if it's, I think they're double, but if it's even 10% is the true number, okay, you have to raise interest rates above the rate of inflation to drive inflation down. So you would have to raise interest rates to 12, 13, 14, 15%. And if those rates are actually double like I think they are, and we're running it more like closer to 14, 15%, you would have to raise the rates up to 20%. And they can't do that without risk of like completely toppling the economy. So they're in a pickle. And if you want to know why the inflation rate is so high, it's because they can't stop printing money. They print money for COVID relief. They're printing money to send to the Ukraine. Every time you see one of these gigantic spending packages that the seals all jump up and down and clap and you know, it's just adding to the problem. So all the money to the Ukraine, all the money for these spending packages that is just basically money laundering, all this money to fight this whatever in the Ukraine, which I won't get into yet. Every time the money printer goes burr, the inflation is going to get worse. So those of you that are voting for these policies, good job, keep it up. I'm all for it. The economy added a staggering 517,000 jobs in January. Well, we'll see, because every time a jobs report comes out, when the revision comes out 6 months later, it's 20 to 50% of what they actually said it was. More than double the employment growth a month prior and well above the breakneck pace of 400,000, blah, blah, blah. In turn, the unemployment rate fell to 3.4%, the lowest figure since 1969. Yeah, because people don't want to work. They got a taste of not working and just sitting at home and getting paid to do nothing, and now no one wants to work. And in all fairness, with inflation the way it is, I can almost see it, because it's getting to the point now where, like, unless you're making $30 an hour, it's getting hard to make ends meet. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said last week that the central bank's fight against inflation has a long way to go, citing the jobs data. Speaking at the Economic Club of Washington, D.C., Powell said, "The extraordinarily strong job figures took the Fed by surprise. It kind of shows you we think this will be a process that takes a significant period of time." Yeah, so it went from it's just transitory and it'll be over shortly, which is what they were saying a year ago, to this is going to take years, if not decades. Still, the Fed has transitioned to a slower pace of rate hikes in recent months, suggesting confidence that the central bank has begun to tame inflation. Well, they can't keep raising rates because for reasons I can't get into, it would take me 20 minutes to explain in this video, they would crash the economy. Over the next 3 years, consumers expect inflation to fall to 2.7%. Okay, all right. Anybody want to put a bet on that? Hovering just above the central bank's target. The combination of strong hiring and easing inflation has buoyed hopes among certain economists that the U.S. could avert a recession. A report released by the International Monetary Fund last month predicted the U.S. economic growth was cool to 1.4% this year from 2% last year, but found the U.S. could avoid a downturn. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen rejected recession fears in an interview last week with Good Morning America on Monday, saying the economy remains strong and resilient. In some ways, it does, but the inflation is going to crush people. Many consumers, however, remain pessimistic. 4 in 10 Americans say they're worse off financially since Biden became president. I've seen other studies that throw it 6 in 10. I don't know who thinks the economy is, or they're better. I don't know who thinks they're better off economically now than they were 4 years ago. But yeah, okay. Home sales for the 11th consecutive month in December, reaching their lowest rate since November 2010, according to the National Association of Realtors. Okay, that's it for that. Just two quick things I want to touch on. Like I said, they would have to raise when Reagan took over for Carter, for example, and we were having an economy sort of similar to what's going on in this one with high inflation. They raised the interest rates over 20%, if memory serves me correctly, to combat that inflation. They can't do that anymore because the United States is I think more than $30 trillion in debt. So we didn't have that kind of debt back then. So that's part of the equation of why they can't do that this time around. And the other thing is don't be a normie when inflation month to month is it was 6.5 last month and it's 6.4 this month, and the news person comes on the TV and tells you it's down 0.1%. Don't be like, oh, the TV told me that it's down 0.1%. The Democrats are doing a great job running everything. Don't be that stupid. Let's look at the comments real quick before I leave. This should be fantastic. Not cooling at my grocery store or gas station. That's true. Where? Not in northern Nevada. And get it right, it's Bidenflation. That's also true. Fact is, inflation is still over 6% too high. 6% is too high, but it's probably closer to 12 in reality. This guy gets it. He's, cars, trucks, phones, TV prices have fallen because no one can afford them. They're buying groceries. That's exactly what I said. Another guy saying exactly the same thing. Grocery. You see here, groceries. I know the egg thing has there's more to it with eggs because of bird flu and this, that, and the other. But when a dozen eggs goes from 97 cents to almost $8, you got problems. Yeah. This is me. I could have wrote this or written this. I'm sorry. This is definitely the same thing I was thinking. I'm currently spending over $1,000 a month on groceries for a family of 3. Yeah, that's my story. And it's just the basics. It's lunch meat sandwiches, hamburgers, hot dogs, the stuff that I could eat for keto, a lot, even lettuce. I eat a lot of vegetables and lettuce, and lettuce is ridiculously priced compared to what it used to be, because you can't just eat iceberg lettuce all the time because there's really no nutritional value. So I have to supplement with leaf lettuce and romaine and stuff like that, and that stuff's through the roof too. There's no falling in that's why I say only 4 in 10 think that they're worse off. No, every single comment here is lies. Getting killed with groceries. It's and that's the thing. Funny numbers. January 2021 inflation 1.4. January 2022 7.5. 23 6.4. So yeah, this guy gets it. It's more accurate to add them together year to year than it is to subtract them. The government wants to subtract them and say, oh, it's down. It's that's not how it works. If the prices are going down, then the inflation is going down, but the prices aren't going down. They're just continuing to go up, and not everyone is stupid enough that they don't get the stats, but a lot of people don't understand the statistics. So, all right, that's all I have to say about this one. And Okay, maybe, so I might have to walk my title back. Maybe not all the normies don't get it, or some of the normies do get it, which is heartening, especially after coming out of the statistical debacle that was the disease of unknown origin. But all right, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.